It really bothers me to see about 15 million Roma or Gypsies, brothers and sisters in Europe facing apartheid, and I repeat, apartheid conditions day after day after day. Apartheid should not be acceptable in 21st century world, but it is right there in the open in Europe, which boasts of its human rights racket. Despite ceremoniously launched paper plans by the European Union and its forerunners during the last 6 decades, almost no change is practically visible. I'm saying no change is practically visible about Roma's status in the society. Like the high-flown Decade for Roma Inclusion 2005 to 2015 initiative, which has failed to make any real impact on the condition of Roma in Europe, as almost no signs of inclusion are seen. This was meant for inclusion, but there is no sign of inclusion. Traces of Roma in Europe go back to 9th century CE. How many more centuries? How many more centuries must Roma reside in Europe to prove that they are real and equal Europeans like anybody else? Instead of unleashing repression, Europe urgently needs to wake up and work on social inclusion and rehabilitation of Roma communities. What is more baffling that the religious elite of Europe has not come out openly against continuous maltreatment of poor Roma, while the religions clearly, and I highlight clearly, told us to help the helpless. I consider it immoral, inhuman, and a sin. And I'm serious, it is a sin to watch the voiceless Roma suffer day after day and not do anything to help their condition. It really bothers me to watch the Europe's most persecuted and discriminated community of Roma regularly encountering social exclusion, racism, substandard education, hostility, joblessness, rampant illness, inadequate housing, lower life expectancy, unrest, living on desperate margins, stereotypes, mistrust, rights violations, marginalization, appalling living conditions, prejudice, human rights abuse, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on. I personally invite the religious and political leaders of Europe to live the life of a Roma for a month to fully realize what actually they go through. You will know the reality of the ground when, as a Roma, you will be refused service at a restaurant in Europe. When you see the job advertisements saying clearly Roma need not apply, when your children are sent to segregated schools or to those schools which have mentally challenged children, or to a classroom in a police station when no other schools will take your children, when your encampment is dismantled or burned, and when you are deported in an otherwise borderless Europe, and when you will be used as a scapegoat, and it happens frequently, by the politicians to gain political mileage. Let us wholeheartedly, I'm saying wholeheartedly, not superficially, embrace Roma brothers and sisters in Europe and urgently work to end their apartheid, thus clearing the social blight from the face of the Europe and the world. Until this happens, it will continue to seriously bother me. Om.